Hello, my name is Vincent Bibby, and this is Media Production, sorry. And this is Documentary Practice and Realism for Creative Media Production Level 5. So, the history of documentary filmmaking. The term documentary was first coined by John Grierson in 1926 and his review of Robert Flaherty's film Moana, where he labelled the term as the creative treatment of actuality. Now, even though that can't be said all the time for documentaries about how they're made today, it still is relevant. A definition of a documentary is always relational or comparative and experimental, as it should not be a reproduction of reality, but a representation of the world as we already occupy it, meaning you should stay as unbiased as possible and the truth should be the truth. But what is real? There are many different documentary techniques and narrative devices, such as actuality scenes, reenactments, story within a story, music choice. All of these are devices a documentarian can use in their documentary to convey a different message. So while they're claiming to stay biased, a documentarian can use these devices to change the entire message of a documentary. Bill Nichols' modes of representations is usually taken as the standard for documentary. Each documentary should fall within one of them. You have poetic, expository, observational, participatory, reflexive, performative. So this brings us to Nanook of the North, another film by Robert Flaherty. It's a controversial film, yet incredibly groundbreaking for the time. Nanook of the North depicted the life of the Inuit people and Nanook as their best hunter. While everything in front of the camera happened, it was all staged. Nanook himself was real, but his wives and children that were in the film were not of his own. The igloo that was used in the film was fake, and they don't hunt in the traditional way anymore, but they still know how to. So, it's a representation of the Inuit people, but it's been misled and changed to make the show better, to make a better documentary. But this observational style is kind of ruined by the input that Flaherty had on the documentary, which begs the question of how much control should the documentarian have over the film, if any, if you wanted true realism to record a subject. So, pioneering in the new form of documentaries was Chronicles of a Summer, a French film pioneering the new wave of cinema verite, which representing realism should be real and include real actions and dialogue from those on screen. Now, Nanook of the North would be considered cinema verite if you did not know about everything that was staged. That being said, when they would hunt a seal, there was a seal being killed. There were instances that, it recorded events that they do. They would go out and hunt. They would live off those means, but he wanted to make them seem less evolved than they are, which can be harmful as it can lead to stereotypes and archetypes created about the subject, as the director's stage reality doesn't directly reflect the true reality. So how real is real and how is it real? Even though what Grierson said is true, unfortunately the representation of reality can be altered, which is a juxtaposition in itself, as if it has been altered, is it still real? Digital image manipulation will bring down the entire Griersonian construction. It's quite a strong standpoint by Brian Winston, but it's true. The fact that you can Photoshop a video and have something portray something completely different than what it was originally recorded suggests that, true realism is, not a reality anymore. It's impossible, and you never know what is real. But even with such intrusive and altering editing, a documentarian cannot remain impartial, and these filmmakers present not the truth, but their truth. Meaning the ideas of cinema verite cannot appease and deliver the absolute truth that they promise, because even just being filmed will change the reality of what you're filming. Waltz with Bashir, one of my favourite documentaries, even though it's all in Iranian, is an animated documentary that follows the veterans of the 1982 invasion of Lebanon. Now, Ari Folman did have to deal with quite a lot of political concerns and was very hated by various countries for releasing this documentary. And while most of the interviews were filmed and animated accurately from real life, the dream sequences are obviously unique to the person describing them. Yet this does not mean it's not a depiction of reality, but rather a depiction of their perceived reality, along with the distortion of memory, as the documentary was made a good 2 decades after the invasion. So this animated style, would instantly mean that an audience viewing it would not take it as fact. But even though the documentary is as accurate as it might be, he still casted 2 actors to play his friends, and the constant narration over dream sequences brings them into reality, makes them sound like fact, that having a real voice talking over a dream sequence or somebody's memory makes it true. But the fact is that these are just people's memories in the documentary, and it should be made more aware of that. So if you were born with the ability to change someone's perspective or emotions, never waste that gift. It is one of the most powerful gifts God can give. The ability to influence. Shannon L. Alder. It's a powerful quote and really says how much power a filmmaker can have over its audience. I mean, people questioning and researching facts that they find out or listen about isn't as common as it used to be. And most people will only watch a documentary on a topic and assume that everything in the documentary is true, which can be very bad for diversity with opinions. So subgenres have always been a thing, but they're becoming more and more common in documentary subgenres. They're using the tropes and codes and conventions of documentary, fourth wall breaking, all the ones we previously mentioned. And one of the most notorious of them is Borat by Sacha Baron Cohen. Now, he knew that stereotypes within a film always work. It always brings in money. But the impact that the film had on Kazakhstan was horrendous. The opening sequence depicts Borat's life in Kazakhstan, but it was actually filmed in Romania, and the people of the village were outraged that they had been used or found it comical. But it was clear that they were not informed that the footage would be used in this way. So while that is a legal and ethical conundrum in the lines were blurred, it still has to be taken into consideration that he's now portraying these Romanians as average life in Kazakhstan. In the beginning of the documentary is a little brief that comes up saying that this is a message from the Kazakhstan ministry. So Cohen defends himself by saying, by himself being anti-Semitic, he lets people lower their guard and expose their own prejudice, whether it's anti-Semitism or an acceptance of anti-Semitism. Which is true, because it allows the audience to relate to the character and realise that they can see themselves saying these things or believing these things, and it's not until somebody says it out loud or they can see it that it becomes a reality to them. They realise how bad they are. But the impact of the film on reality has exploded the stereotype out of proportion for Kazakhstan, and even created its own ones for the country, as it was not really talked about beforehand. So documentary has a very strong place in today's world as people's attention spans get shorter and less people are interested in reading books and wish to be shown their facts and be told them. While this can have a positive impact, the negative is that people do not question what is real anymore, and passive audiences are viewing documentaries and taking it as absolute fact. This lazy audience that's being, created and targeted by documentarians is leading to a less diverse set of opinions and allowing people's reality to be shifted into something that is not real and manufactured. Documentarians are receiving more audiences and more power from the increased viewership from Netflix and other streaming services, which has led to the confusion between fact and fiction, and not knowing what is real, and people being confused that taking opinion in a documentary just because it's in the documentary doesn't make it fact. And we have yet to see what this will mean for the future. Thank you. And there's the bibliography.